But speaking about something that could be all the fault of a club, let's talk about this story, Donnie, and one where we're going to take it as face value. This is 100% correct. There is no need to kind of disagree on the sources who wrote the article, because we all know they are known for producing nothing but super accurate and well-reported journalism. And of course, I'm talking about the amazing, astounding Herald Sun, who we all know and love as the most reliable piece of media that the world has ever seen. And if you could say that without laughing, I applaud you, because I could not. But we are taking a look at, possibly according to them, that Buddy Franklin is entering some new drama with his contract, and that he's going to potentially be quitting the Swans due to a lowball offer that was just put on the table by the club. Of course, Donnie, I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts on this one, plenty of grains of salt we're going to need to take with this story. So is Dusty going to be out of Sydney? Is Sydney going to give Dusty the money that he wants? And are we going to essentially see Dustin Martin replace Buddy Franklin with the Sydney Swans? Answer all those amazing questions. I'm sure it's super easy to solve.
Okay. Oh man. So waking up this morning, the one and only bad part about being an American when it comes to keeping track of the
a little
news,
behind on the news, aren't we?
sometimes in Australia, is that sometimes bat crazy stuff happens while you're asleep. So I wake up to a couple of not only Facebook posts but also Twitter messages and things like that saying,
of course,
OMG, the Sydney Herald is putting out that there have been bumps in the road in the negotiations, and that supposedly Buddy has been quoted again. I take that with a massive grain of salt that Buddy would be dumb enough to say that into the media, which I don't think he did. That he's being lowballed by the Swans at $500,000 a year. Okay. For those that live in Australia that watch this, Ross, you've seen the NFL, you've seen the NHL. When a guy gets towards the end of his career, is he going to make the top tier figures when it comes to finances?
Oh, yeah, why wouldn't he, Donnie? No, of course not.
So here is my argument. And again, this is a couple of Americans talking sports, but talking a little bit. So it's a completely different financial situation. But a $10 million player over here, when they get towards the end of their career, they're going to sign something for a third of that price. Currently, Buddy is on about 1.4 million. A third of that, considering he's 32, he's had injury-plagued seasons, he's had many an injury, he's towards the end of his career. A third of his salary is $500,000, $500,000. It's not bad money. I mean, especially for the AFL, that's still pretty good money. Is this a lowball offer? No, legitimately, I do not think it's a lowball offer. And okay,
it's a very reasonable one, right?
And I'm gonna say this. Okay, I'm gonna take off neutral hat, and I'm gonna put on Swan's red hat here. This is purely my opinion on this. Okay, purely my opinion. Does Buddy Franklin deserve $500,000? That is the most I would pay him. This is legitimately me. $500,000, maybe $6 would be the most I would pay him. Because
it's going back to having to pay every one of those super young.
Exactly.
This roster is loaded with young talent that you're going to have to keep around for years.
And many
like you've talked about, and especially in the games that. Sorry, I'm going to keep interrupting you because that's one thing I'm good at. One thing that we saw earlier in the season, especially in the Buddyless games that we saw, is that Sydney. It might be a tough thing to say. I almost bring this back to in your situation, Donnie, with Buddy and the Swans. I'm going to relate to my big thing, and for everyone following Gridiron, Von Miller and the Broncos kind of situation, where last year they traded him away, one of the greatest players in franchise history. They trade away. Essentially, they let him leave the team because. And honestly, it might have been a worse situation, but essentially it's a guy that the Broncos, and given their situation, they didn't necessarily need. He wasn't necessarily worth the costs that came alongside it. Obviously, it's a guy you would love to have on your list, but if push comes to shove, you're going to take the you're going to make that move and bring and so you could keep the younger guys going. Is that pretty similar to this situation as well, Donnie?
No, pretty much. And my favorite part is that everybody's trying to twist this. Well, they're trying to lowball Buddy so they can bring in Dusty Martin. Well, here's a reality check. I've heard Tom Harley, the CEO of the Sydney Swans, already basically say the Dusty Martin discussions are a waste of our time. They don't have the salary cap. They're not interested in him. They have the midfield youth depth they need. Mm-hmm. Would they like Dusty Martin? I don't think any person worth their weight in gold would say they don't want Dusty Martin. But
exactly,
you don't want Dusty Martin in the process of costing you a Rowbottom, a Warner, an Ollie Florent, a McInerney, a Blakey.
You're not going to bend over backwards to keep him on your list.
Exactly. And then there's people like, well, if you could sign Buddy, you could bring Buddy and Dusty. I'm like, yeah, and then lose 6 youngsters because $2.5 million is on 2 guys that maybe have 3 years combined left in their careers. Like, again, are they great players? Yes. Do I look at it. The Sydney Herald is not exactly known for its footy coverage, so I think this is
crazy.
I think this is somebody got a sniff of that they weren't close, that they're still negotiating, so they decided to make a story about this.
Fill in the dots with whoever they want to.
I agree with several that I said is that if Buddy signs a new contract extension tomorrow morning, it's going to make whoever wrote this article look really, really, really stupid. So I think it's going to get done. Will the Swans cave a little? It won't shock me because I think they think he needs to be there because of the star power. Okay. Legitimately think that. Mm-hmm. But as I've said, and again, I'm not trying to be cruel to Buddy. Buddy's one of my favorite players. I will openly say that. Again, Red Hat Donnie here. Buddy is one of my favorite players of all time. I love the way the guy plays. But I've said it and I will say it, and I don't care who in the Swans I offend. 600,000, no higher, because you are costing your future to keep a guy that really I think has 2 great seasons left in him, and that's it. I would let Buddy go, and I know it sounds shocking. Coach Hess wants Buddy. No, I don't want Buddy to leave, but if Buddy leaves, to keep a Warner, a Rowbottom, a McInerney, a Blakey, a Heaney, a Wicks, these youngsters that have 7, 8, 10, 12 years left in their footy careers, I'm willing to do that for a guy that maybe only has 2. So, again, I take it with a grain of salt. I think it'll happen, but I don't think the Swans are going to overpay for him. They're basically going to tell Buddy, hey, if you want to be part of this team to potentially have a chance to win a flag in Sydney, you're going to have to give a little too. We're going to give a little.
I agree.
We'll give you a little bit more money, 600,000. I think if you start getting to the 7s and the 8s, it's too much money. You're spending.
I think the Swans have been playing this really well in terms of not like feeding into the almost what you feel like maybe a little bit of fan pressure. They're playing it smart, and they're just seeing the truth is what's out there, and they're not trying to bend over backwards for a star. They're trying to respect him. I'm sure they're not going to do anything disrespectful to Buddy, but at the same time, they're being realistic with their club, and that's really what you hope that they can do.
Well, you can't sit there and focus primarily on one season or within a season. You have to have a holistic look, because the club has got to think about not just this season, not just next season, but 2, 3, 4 seasons in advance, because you've got a list that, like I said, if you can keep it together, you can keep it healthy, is a flag contender type of list for the next 8 to 10 years if they can keep the youth that they have drafted and that they have molded on the list. And it's not just, and I know there's going to be people in the comments section, well, they get all those academy players. Again, reality check to you. There have only been 12 academy players that have played senior footy. Not all of them with the Swans. And guess how many Swans Academy players have went through the academy? That would be 2,500. I don't know about you, but 12 out of 2,500 is kind of a small number. So this argument that Sydney has this great advantage, No, they don't. They just produce really good footy players in a rugby state that, again, sorry to you Victorians who don't understand this, if they didn't play footy, they'd be playing rugby. I don't know. Maybe I hate saying it this way, but I'm going to be quite simple. Isaac Heaney could have played rugby league. Callum Mills could have played rugby league. I'm sorry. They're playing footy because the Swans have a very good academy. They develop them well. They get first rights to them. It's like your father's sons. Look at the Western Bulldogs. Look at the Collingwood Magpies. You guys are getting a lot of father sons that are conveniently at the top of the draft pool. So you're saying Sydney's got an advantage, but yet Collingwood has the number 1 overall kid this last year, but yet they didn't finish last. So, again, think about what hill you want to die on, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a hill. I think you're dying on it for the wrong reason. That's we'll say there. So, I think Buddy will sign. I think this is a hill of beans. I think this is a waste of time. This is a BS article. I think it'll eventually happen, but it causes clicks, so we got to do it.
Fair enough. But to sum up this segment, Coach Donnie thinks that the North Melbourne Roos are going to move heaven and earth to keep Jason Horne-Francis, and he also has told Buddy Franklin to kick rocks, essentially, and he is washed. Of course, I am applying for my job with the Herald within the next couple days, and I will be using that clip as evidence of why I would be perfect for that team.